Hello and welcome to the launch of Incognito 2021. We're here at Fairmount House in County Kildare, a wonderful events venue that used to be a nuclear bunker. So what better place to have the launch of the biggest art sale in Ireland. 3,000 postcard-sized pictures are for sale for €60 each, and they're available online as from today. The sale starts at 10 a.m. on the 22nd of April, and all proceeds go to the Jack and Jill Foundation, which of course are badly needed in these strange times. Now, we've been doing this for 5 years, and one of our earliest contributors were two wonderful artists from County Louth, Adrian and Shane.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you for coming all the way down.
Welcome. It's nice to have a day out.
Ah, well, you're great. Now, the first time you got involved with Jack and Jill was for Hares on the March in 2016.
Yeah.
Tell us, what was all that? That was an auction, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 100 different hares that were placed around Dublin city centre. And we received a blank 4 foot hare. I think so, yeah. And the brief was just to paint it whatever way you wanted to do it or adapt it. Yeah. And it was a bit of a challenge for us because normally we work on flat 2D surfaces, paintings, canvases. So to work on something sculptural was it was a challenge, but it was really, really good. It work like that takes you out of your comfort zone, and it kind of gives you a push to kind of move in a different direction. So it was something we really worked.
Really
one of our favourite pieces ever, actually. That we've done.
Actually, I love it. I really love that piece.
It was a shame we had to give it away.
And it was popular. We actually had several people, while the auction was happening, we had several people getting in touch with us from around the world saying that they wanted that hair.
Paint more hair. So did you ever paint a hair again, or was that your career over in hairs?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it was really good. So we screen printed the image onto paper, and then we covered the hair with the printed paper. It was looked incredible.
Fantastic.
And there were some great pieces that year. Yeah. Really, really nice pieces.
So tell me, the big question, you live together and you paint together. So when you're painting a picture, talk us through it. Who holds the paint and who holds the paintbrush?
We never get that question. No, it changes all the time. I think when we started, it was quite organic how it happened. It actually started over a few drinks one night. It was Valentine's Day, 1998. And
in Glasgow.
I was at art school, the Glasgow School of Arts, studying architecture. And we took quite a bit of vodka that night. And it was just kind of like a fun night, painting as a sketch pad. And we were swapping the sketch pad over and back. So we didn't really know what we were doing. It was just kind of happened organically. And the same thing kind of happened then for the first few years where we would start on canvases and we just swapped them maybe halfway through. So we didn't know what way the piece was going to end, what we were actually creating. But nowadays it's far more planned and structured in terms of how we actually do something. So, and then it depends on what, if we're making a screen print, how we, someone's screening and then the other person is then, getting colours ready. So, or for a painting then maybe it's just a very different technique and someone might be better at doing one thing than the other. But it changes all the time. There's not one set of rules.
And tell me, so lockdown was what? Good for you? Bad for you? A challenge?
Challenge, yeah.
Challenge,
in the beginning...
It's a challenge for
I've
everybody.
been really enjoying it, though. We do love the aspect of kind of blocking out the outside world. That's what we do anyway. We live in a bubble.
We do.
In an Adrian and Shane bubble.
Yeah.
Where... Yeah, I really liked it. I liked the peacefulness of the whole thing, and we're kind of left to our own devices in the studio. We didn't have any specific projects to work on, so we were just kind of working. We were free to work on our own stuff, do what we wanted.
With a couple of projects cancelled, like upcoming exhibitions. There was one that was happening in the April 2020 that was just cancelled, and then there was 2021 exhibitions that again have been pushed back more and more. So it was strange to start planning stuff and not know when this is going to happen. But the first couple of months were I suppose the novelty of the knockdown and this lockdown and the situation. But then I think as it just went on more and more and things were opening up and closing down, it just was a bit, I suppose challenging for everyone.
But you have got an exhibition coming up next year, haven't you?
Yes.
We do, yes.
Which is fabulous. Great.
Yeah.
Which we're not really talking about. we are having it, but we're not. We don't have a specific date yet, and we don't want to give away anything.
But now, influences, an interesting question. Yeah. I would imagine early influence of yours was Gilbert and George, given that they were the sort of first pairing modern artists.
And duos.
So we would have been aware of Gilbert and George. But I think their work doesn't really, like, I don't think our work is similar to their work.
No.
But I think as an art duo, and they're both like gay and men and use their first names as their name.
Yeah.
I think that definitely took from that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but there's a lot of duos around, like, I suppose you have Christo and Jean-Claude and Noble and Webster and
Ava and Adele.
So there's quite a few other
and we
duos.
have two artists in the exhibition, Jill and Jill.
Yeah, and you had the Project Twins last year, which is a lovely piece, really, really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not uncommon, I suppose, to have duos.
No.
But yeah, it's different. It's a different process, I suppose.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So now we're going to look at some pictures from this year because we've got some lovely ones here. And I'd like you to pick out one that you like and let's have a look at it.
Well, really like this collage up there.
Second from the top.
Yeah, it's just lovely. The colours in it is really nice. The image, I think it's Audrey Hepburn, but it's just so graphic and nice. And then the collage, which is really cool.
And the gold, is it gold leaf or something?
It's got some sort of gold leaf.
Yeah.
I really love that colour behind. Don't you love the background colour?
Yes,
absolutely.
it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I tell you what's brilliant are the plums. Have you seen the plums?
Incredible.
Yeah, I've definitely been drawn to those plums.
Yeah. Absolutely stunning. I mean, the detail in there, the colour, everything is just, it's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
It looks like a photograph.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful
And
piece.
even actually the lemon is absolutely
Beautiful
incredible.
with the reflection, isn't it?
Yeah.
The reflection
Yeah.
of the lemon is fantastic. I think that's an oil painting.
Yeah.
There's also one that's rather sweet with the black cat.
Yes.
And
actually,
you
I
like
really
that because you have a black cat,
Yeah, we
don't
do.
you?
We've a lovely black cat called Frank, and she's 16 years old. So
It's a she?
It's a she.
Okay.
Yeah, we thought it was a male when she was born.
Gender fluid.
Originally thought it was a boy, and then I think it was a year or so later that she got pregnant, so that's when we realised that.
No, this is not a male cat.
She wasn't a male.
Yeah. It's lovely because there's always, what I love about the postcards is there's always something for everyone in it to buy stuff, which is incredible.
It's incredible. You see, what's extraordinary is the difference in how people interpret a postcard.
Absolutely. And then there's always hairs, which every year you'll always see a few different hairs, which is brilliant as well. But yeah.
And you see the donkey. I don't know whether you can, if you get closer to it, it's actually a collage.
Oh yes,
of
that's
jersey
incredible.
material.
Exactly.
So much work went into that. It's
Which
really incredible piece.
It's going to have to be looked at carefully online because that's the problem with being online is you can't see the details. But
Absolutely.
We'll have to get that magnified in some way.
And we can't name any of the artists or say who they're by. Because I'd love to know who did the donkey.
Yeah.
So over the 5 years, do you think your style has varied at all in the 5 years that you've been doing our postcards?
Yes, actually, I think that the way we approached it has changed. We always screen print our work, but I think it's actually kind of helped us to make more cohesive collections because I think when we make work, it can be very... we just make what we like sometimes, and maybe that's not the best thing for making a series of paintings, but with the Jack and Jill postcards, we've tried to make a little cohesive collection. So we tried to bring the same colour in or the same element.
Oh, very nice.
And so we know it's like the same artist,
Yes.
whereas with our own work, sometimes we're a bit over the place with it. But actually, we've brought that back into our own work now, where we actually try to make stronger elements and cohesiveness throughout the entire series that we're doing. So it's funny how it's actually helped us. Doing something like this has actually helped us back in terms of our own work. But it has, I suppose, from year to year, we've kind of tried to focus in maybe colour 1 year, or maybe like because I can't say something because it will give it away what we're doing. But
each year you'll see that the 3 pieces that we've entered every year, they look like a little mini collection. You can tell the 3 are by the same artist, although they're very different as well. But you can tell, like, colour-wise and theme-wise, they're by the same artist. Yeah. And we actually have, should we say this? That we have, every time we make the postcard, we don't just make one of each one, we have a few extras. So we do have those in our studio, which we intended to put on sale at some point, but we never have.
And it's just in case, because like what happens is we might make 10 pieces, and then we're screening, and we have to try and slot the Jack and Jill one in for a good screen, basically. And then because there would be 4 layers, maybe that would go into each one. So we have to get the right rhythm and to know the next screen that we're going to do is a good one. So there's always this fear, like we're going along.
Because you can easily make a mistake, and you can have too much ink coming through the screen or whatever, and it could ruin it.
Yeah.
So do you do the printing? What do you do the printing on? Because it's obviously stuck to the postcard.
Yeah, we do it on the postcard.
It's on the postcard.
You do it straight onto the postcard.
Onto the postcard. Yes. Yeah. So it's screen printed, maybe 3 or 4 layers on each postcard.
Right.
But yeah, it does look like it was probably stuck on, like done on something else and stuck on, but no, it's actually done onto the card itself.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And another thing, edit this to make it look good. So every year, the first project that we work on after Christmas in January is the Jack and Jill postcard project. And it gets the ball rolling for the year. It gets us out of the Christmas slump. Yeah. And
it's like I suppose with Christmas and winter, we always struggle a bit creatively. So it's just with dark nights. So we always like to leave it for January. So when we're getting the year going, that we have this project to start with, and it's really good. It really helps us.
Yes, because I never know whether people are pleased to hear from me in October, November, or whether they're going, oh God, not her again. Because I normally, contact everybody around October, November. Yeah. And what's funny is that when people write back and they say, yes, I want to do it, and they register, and everything's very enthusiastic, and I send off the cards to them, and then nothing. And of course, it gets on, and I email them in January, and I say, everybody, this is happening. We need the cards in by say the 1st of February. Nothing. Last week of January, one more email. Can everybody please send their cards in? We're getting a bit desperate here. And suddenly there's a flurry. And what's brilliant is I get about 200 emails of people telling me every reason why they haven't got their cards in. I mean, it can be that the dog is ill, it can be their aunt's birthday, it can be Christmas, it can be anything. And it's wonderful to get these excuses. Yeah. And then suddenly, by whatever it was, the first week in February, we had over 3,000.
We always leave it right up until the end. I don't know. Yeah. And for us, like we said, it's always our first project of the year, getting into the studio, starting on that. Yeah. But we always like to take as much time. If someone says, like, you have until the 31st of January, we will use that. Yeah. We will keep...
Yeah. 30th of January, up all night.
Yeah. And so you send out the postcards in October, so we could do it then if we wanted to and get it over with.
But, I know. Yeah. And every morning I go to the postman, and the postman answers the postman, anything? Not today.
Oh,
and then suddenly he comes in with these huge, great green and post crates, and it's just marvellous. And I mean, then we open them and looking at all the different styles that we have. But it is a funny process, and I don't know whether it's artists or whether it's Irish or whether it's just general life, that if you're given a deadline, you don't take any notice of it.
Leave it to the last minute.
Yeah.
Last minute.
Well, I'm glad it's not just us.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't want to paint plums.
No.
We love plums.
And you didn't want to paint the cat particularly, but
I
presumably you can paint the cat and you can paint plums.
Yeah, well, we can. Well, that's the thing. We can do these things.
Yeah.
I suppose you just don't. I suppose for everyone, for art, it's something that you feel and you have to get it out of yourself. That's what it is. And for us, I suppose we both had very similar likes when we were growing up, that we were both into branding and magazines and pop music and pop culture. Pop art. And I suppose that really then influences how you make something or how you see the world. And like we are very much voyeurs in terms of looking at how people approach their lives. And the two of us then kind of we said in the beginning when we started creating artwork that it was kind of like documentary art, that we were documenting what happened to us. And I suppose that's kind of changed. I suppose the subject always changes, what maybe that you're painting, but the intentions behind it haven't changed. And for us, art has always been about escape and aspiration, and escaping where you are in the world, or maybe you're not happy or something, and going into that kind of like nice creative flow is where the two of us really work well. And then the aspiration of trying to be a better person or have a better life, or to contribute to society in a particular way. And I suppose that is where the both of us come from in our artwork. But the subject might change in how we actually then define that work, I suppose. So, yeah, I think that's it.
So, who was your very first, I mean, what's your earliest memory of pop art or of art, out of interest? I mean, are we talking Andy Warhol? Are we talking, I mean, Andy Warhol would have been an influence for an awful lot of people, wouldn't he?
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
I mean, his imagery is he's so diverse, so strong. His use of color and branding. We love using text in our work as well. He's just, I suppose he's a great influence. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And street art as well
Street
is
art,
a massive
yeah.
influence. Like artists like Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat. These like big 80s artists. Big influence.
Yeah. We love using colour and text, so I suppose that would be something
You're not
that
as
we
mad
take.
as them, though. I mean, some of those were completely
You don't know us
mad.
that well, then?
I think we conceal our madness. We hide it.
Very good, yeah.
Well, listen, thank you so much for coming in. It's been great talking to you and hearing all your views and news. And everybody can see your postcards that are going to be for sale on the 22nd of April.
Excellent.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Oh, no,
Thanks for having
absolute
us.
pleasure.
We loved it.
Great.
Anytime.
Jack and Jill are so appreciative of your loyalty.
Oh, well, anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Every year we have artists from all over the world. And last week I did a Zoom call, because of course we all have to do Zoom calls at the moment, with the very talented portrait artist Ange Bell, who's now based in the UK. Ange, how are you?
Hi, Lucinda. I'm well. How are you?
Good, good. Well, we're so lucky to have you contributing this year. And there's so many questions I want to ask you, but I'm going to start with your background. You were brought up in Antrim.
That's right, yes. And I studied at the University of Ulster in Belfast.
And then you really, as you've told me, you started off with sculpture, didn't you? I mean, you that was your main love at the beginning.
That's right. So I've got a degree and a master's in fine art sculpture. I never really went into the painting studio at all. So yeah, that was only years later. I had a bit of a break from making art and got a proper job as a youth worker for many years. And it was only whenever my kids started school that I ended up getting a bit of time. And yeah, I wanted to try something new and different. So painting was the ticket.
Brilliant. And portraits are your thing. I mean, that's what you love more than anything, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think there's something wonderful about examining and exploring the human face, and all the subtleties of expression. But I think it also feeds back into our desire really to be seen and recognised and valued. And yeah, that really attracts me to the world of portraiture. So it's keeping me busy anyway.
And did you find it difficult for our Incognito project? Did you find it difficult doing it small, or was it something that you naturally took to? Because some of our
not at
artists have
all.
said, "Oh my good." Some of our artists have said, "Oh, it's been so difficult doing it so small because I'm used to doing huge canvases." And I just wondered, how did you find it? Because your pictures are so beautifully presented.
Well, it was perfect for me because I'm known for working small. At the kind of end of last year, I produced a series of paintings on library cards. So their dimensions were about 3.5 inches by 5. So yeah, a postcard size was large enough for me.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And tell me, how have you found it during lockdown? I mean, what's it been like for you?
It's been interesting, hasn't it? Or the Corona coaster, as we call it. You know, I think we've kind of been the same as everybody else, really. There's been the ups and downs of it. I mean, I had the virus at the start of last year in the March time, so that kind of set me back a bit. But I think yeah, I've really tried to keep my practice up. Last year, I got involved with the Portraits for NHS Heroes. I know you've something similar over in Ireland as well. And yeah, so I think I completed about 6 of those portraits. I also got involved with the Artist Support Pledge, whereby artists were selling their work and then pledging to buy work of other artists as well. So it felt like I was getting involved in different little communities. And I
Fantastic. Yeah.
think at times when I don't know, it was really stressful and strange, and I just think going back to what I know painting, so I thought I'd crack on with that. But also, I think it's really important to reach out and and get involved with other little communities. But I think also. I'm not the only one that's been doing it. It sounds like you've had a fantastic response this year at Incognito.
Well, we certainly have. I mean, as you know, it was the first time online last year, so we were slightly fearful, but we sort of hit the moment when. Just after lockdown, when people had a lot of time on their hands, because the first lockdown, nobody quite knew what to do.
Mm.
So we were incredibly lucky, and we had I think last year we had 1,100 artists, and this year we've got more. I mean, we had 1,670, if I think that's the right figure, who registered, which was absolutely marvellous, and some great talent. And I mean, yours was last year the most popular card on our website, which was fantastic. And we had over 15,000 people on the website at the same time, which was marvelous, and we raised all this money. So we've been lucky so far, and hopefully this year it'll be even better. But what I wanted to ask you, Ange, is what medium do you like best? I mean, artists sort of vary, and we have mixed mediums in our collection and stuff. And I just wondered what's your favourite medium?
Um, Personally, I prefer oil paint. I think it's great that other artists can work in so many different mediums. You know, acrylics, watercolors are the most challenging, I think. But for me, oil paint, I like to work alla prima, so wet on wet. So it gives me a bit of time to get the work
Yeah,
done. But I just
flush.
think you've got
Yeah.
such a huge range of art available. I mean, last year it was a staggering collection from landscapes to portraits to watercolor to pencil sketches. I just think it's great. I think it's a testament that art is good for the soul. I think that you've had so many people involved this year, and yeah.
Well, it's what we love. It's what I mean. The cards get sent off, as you know, and then they come back, painted. And every day the postman came with, one day we got 300 all in one go. And what was
Wow.
brilliant was opening the envelope and seeing what somebody has interpreted, how they've interpreted whatever they've interpreted onto the card, what they felt they wanted to put a postcard. I mean, we've had embroidery, we've got glass, we've got stained glass, metal. Um, we have a wonderful artist who sticks diamante in patterns onto a card, charcoal, and I mean, just the diversification, is that right? Diversification is fantastic. Whatever, it is fantastic. And what I love is everybody from all over the country, all over the world. I mean, we've got 2 people in Australia who paint, and somebody in
Oh, good.
Alaska. Somebody in Alaska, which is so fantastic. And every single one is different. That's what's so interesting about the project. And so what we like to think is that this is reaching out art to everybody. Everybody has a chance of buying something that they like, which is great. Now tell me a quick.
And I think
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think as well that's great, because I think that I know from my experience over the past year that I've felt incredibly supported by people, and I think more people are reaching out to the arts as sources of inspiration or joy. And I think that art can be a very expensive business to try and collect pieces, but the work is so affordable. I mean, some people are getting some excellent bargains,
Okay.
aren't they, at Incognito?
Well, that's the excitement for them. I mean, that's that is the excitement, is the reveal as to what they've got. And we haven't had anybody say, "Oh, I'm disappointed" or anything like that in the 5 years we've been doing it, which is fantastic. Everybody's been really pleased, and there's some people who are collecting artists over the years, and I'd say that the person who got yours last year is definitely going to keep an eye out this year. Um, but it's been, we've had the odd email of people saying, well, there's this artist and that artist, and I got 2 of them, and I'm waiting for this year for the 3rd, etc., etc. So I mean, I'm very, very happy that A, it's been a success, and B, it's appealed to your fraternity, because it could have been something that artists thought, well. Whoops, my telephone's ringing. I'm going to stop that. It could have been something that artists say, well, do I really want to do a small picture? Have I got enough time to do a small picture? But to a man has been enthusiastic, which is fantastic. So one leading last question for you, Ange, is who would you most like to paint? If you could paint any portrait, who would you like to paint?
That's a tough question. Usually I don't like having sitters in with me, but I think if I did, I'd want somebody entertaining. Maybe Billy Connolly. I think he'd be good crack.
Yeah, brilliant.
And he's got a great face, doesn't he? So that'd give me lots to work with.
Yeah, you have all the beard and all the hair.
That's it.
Okay, Billy Connolly, if you're listening, Billy Connolly,
hopefully really entertaining.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. I can imagine. So, Billy Connolly, if you're listening to this, I think you ought to give Angie a ring. I've got her email address and her telephone number, so please get in touch with her. Well, Ange, it's been a joy talking to you, and you must get back to your paintbrushes. But listen, thank you so much, and thank you so much for contributing. And thank you very much.
Oh, no, thank you. It was lovely to catch up with you. And I think you and your team have done a fantastic job. And I really just hope people go at the auction, and best of luck to them.
Brilliant.
Hi, I'm Carmel and I'm the CEO of the Jack and Jill Children's Foundation. Today we look after 374 children from birth to 6 years of age. These are children all across the country. Children with life-limiting conditions, children with highly complex medical conditions, children who may never walk or talk or paint, but we know they do better at home where their family wants them. We've extended the service to 6 years of age recently, and this is so important for our families, particularly coming out of COVID, because with so much respite being cancelled around the country, to have Jack and Jill service for that extra year means so much to them. And I'm delighted and proud of the fact that we can do it this year. We've wanted to go to 6 since 2010, and we've gone there on a piece-by-piece basis, but this is the year we can do it. But we can only do it because of the funds we raise. We're so delighted to have so many families under our care, and families who are willing to tell their stories. But that takes a lot. And I want to say a big thank you to Tracy and to Willow and to Noah and to John for inviting us into their home and for telling the story of Jack and Jill and Willow. Thank you.
We like the Minky Nonks, don't we? In the night garden. Just get this wind out of her belly. So Willow is 4, and Willow was born the 1st of December 2016. What should have been just a normal birth, but became our worst nightmare. So Willow suffered a brain injury in the hours between that morning and birth. After birth, I suppose we don't really know the full show, but anyway, which caused significant issues in Willow. So she has cerebral palsy, which would be grade 5, so she'd be the highest grade of cerebral palsy, and would suffer with epilepsy and other health concerns. You're just thrown into this abyss, have no idea what you're doing. Willow was actually sent home with the thought that she would survive even the journey home. So she was sent home really under palliative care. So there was obviously a lot around her care. She was NG fed at the time, and there was medication, and there was just a list of stuff, and you're just trying to get your head around what happened and reminded what you had to deal with. And I remember the first few days we were at home, there was people coming from every direction. So there was family, there was public health nurses, there was palliative care nurses, and you're just in the middle of this vacuum, and it's just like a tornado whizzing around you because everything is happening around you and you're just stuck. We met Catherine Fullerton, who's Willow's Jack and Jill nurse, and she's been with Willow since she was 3 weeks old until this day, so she's like her second mum. And I would probably talk to Catherine every single day, just general chit-chat. So it's become a family, like a really big family. That's what Jack and Jill really are. So I always say that this is like a pirate ship. You know, we're just sort of rocking our own way. Jack and Jill are our safety island, you know, when you need to stop off. They're always there in the background.
News headlines. A lock star has been broken. They're the most expensive toys on earth. We're supposed to save them, but Tracy Brennan
No,
broke
I
them.
did not.
Yes, she did.
So Noah was 2.5 when Willow was born. Massive impact on him, huge. And obviously for myself and John as a couple, you know, our lives were sort of very much thrown up in the air. And thankfully we're really good together, and we just sort of meshed and just got on with it, and, you know, put the heads down and got on. But I think the hardest impact was for Noah, where, you know, he would have been an only child at the time and very excited about his new sister being born, to, you know, in the middle of this madness. And that's the other thing that Jack... You're having your saying it. You love Noah, don't you? That's the other thing that Jack and Jill did, I suppose, as well. They gave us that time to step outside of this and spend time on our own with Noah, where he really needed that extra support. And even though, you know, you're still his mum, you're not the mum that he had before, because you've just got this worry on you the whole time. I mean, it was that, you know, we were a long time watching Willow with the fear that, you know, she mightn't see tomorrow, and then managing her care and understanding her needs as well. I know I was just sort of toddling along behind. I think that was probably one of the hardest impacts of this situation. But that is the big comfort as well with Jack and Jill, that they give you time just to do normal family stuff. If we didn't have them, you know, you wouldn't be able to step outside of that and just give him a run in a field, or, you know, a day out with his mum and dad where you're not worrying about Willow. Last year, Incognito went online. We didn't get to the galleries prior to that, and I actually never even looked at the catalogues prior to that. I suppose we had other stuff busy with life. So I spent a couple of days browsing the catalogue. Obviously there was quite a lot. There was a few I had an interest in, but it was actually my husband John that fell upon the piece of art that we did get, because it really made him think of Willow. So a very strong lady, but her arms were locked in this position, which made him think of Willow. Because of Willow's cerebral palsy, she would have spasticity in her arms, so her arms would be very tight, but she's very strong. An art piece is €60. And I mean, some of the pieces are, you know, from famous artists. You don't really know until you get the piece, and I suppose that's part of the excitement behind it as well. And like our piece, you know, you're able to go and look up this artist, and we created a lovely connection. But €60 is just short of 4-hour nursing care, so it's €16 an hour for nursing care, and that is the time that we could give to Noah. So for every piece of art given, you're giving maybe a sibling time out with their parents that they wouldn't get otherwise. You're giving parents time to just go around and do the normal things that we would have taken for granted before. You know, time to have a shower, time to go shopping, all these silly things that people would have taken for granted before. I suppose the biggest part for us was to give Noah extra time. So for every piece of art you're buying, you're giving people, families like ours, valuable time that they may not have otherwise. I'm Tracy Ellen Captain Brennan Carol, as Noah likes to read the whole thing off. I'm Tracy Carol, and this is my daughter Willow. Hey, look at Mommy down here. Hey, Pet. She loves the breeze.
What a beautiful story from Tracy and Willow and Noah and John. And it just shows how our Jack and Jill nurses become part of the care regime for such wonderful families around the country. We couldn't do what we do without the fundraising through Incognito. And I have to give a huge thanks to the artists who've donated their talent, their time, and their wonderful pictures for this fundraiser that we are so proud of. We hope you enjoy the collection. We certainly are very proud of it. This turns art into a currency of care. And to all the artists out there who've participated, thank you so much. We hope you enjoy the collection.
Thank you, Carmel. We were lucky enough to catch up with Jenna Driscoll, who's a very talented screen printer in Cork, and he showed us the process of what it takes to make an Incognito card.
Am I just grabbing shit off the car and walking in? Is that the crack? Pretty much, yeah. I didn't come into this intending to be an artist. You know, I studied graphic design. Printmaking was one module on a Friday afternoon, and it just stuck with me. And by following through on that and doing courses and meeting other artists, working down the studios, it just opens up this whole different kind of realm that I wasn't aware of, you know. And it's just never ending. Like, it just keeps going and going and going. I'm Jenna Driscoll. I'm a visual artist based here in Cork. I'm working out of Cork Printmakers. I studied graphic design in Cork, and after that I spent 10 years in Dublin working in design and art direction. But I took up printmaking in final year college, but always kept it going. I was always practicing my own artwork as my own creative output, I suppose. It wasn't client-led. And the last few years, I suppose, I've kind of lent a bit more towards that. And then 3 years ago, just left Dublin, moved back down to Cork, back home. My artwork is developed digitally first on a computer. Like they're all the programs I would use as a designer, like full time, but just used, I suppose, in a different way. You know, compositions are kind of loosely put together in that. I mean, the final print that I make is never what was intended from the start. There's always a deviation or alterations. I enjoy the process of change and happenstance. Like, that's where I get the kick. The buzz for me is in the creation, the process of not knowing, but then suddenly it clicks into space, and then you know that the gut says this is it. Each shape, I suppose, effectively is burnt into the screen. So the screen is like, it's a mesh. It's a tilt screen mesh. Here's one. So as you can see there, that's transparent. So if I was to run a squeegee over that, all the ink would pass through it. So what we do is I get a trough, and we actually coat it on both sides with a UV reactive coating, like a paint, and then we cure it there to dry it. And then when I print off all the individual shapes from a composition on an inkjet printer, I oil them up so the light can pass through the white parts. And then I place all the individual shapes here. You put the UV reacted coated screen here, close it down. It's effectively a light box. You flick on the lights and it exposes the shapes onto the actual screen. Then when you take out the screen, you wash it down, and the shapes the light hasn't passed through, the water washes that out, and that's how you get the shapes trapped in there. You know, each color is printed one at a time. It's not like a standard printer where it all comes out complete. It's all layered and built, and you know, depending on the surface you work with, or the paper, or the size of the page, you know, I could be halfway through a print and suddenly decide to cut a page in half, and that totally alters the composition, and that turns you off on a new angle, and that's the fun element. Bring it from the digital, you know, which is what I did for years working as a designer. It was all digital. You work it up, you send it off to printers, but with this, you're working from the complete start to the finish. You're mixing inks. It's tangible, it's tactile. You become part of the artwork, you know. It is a very different process to what I would have, you know, been doing before. You know, with that one piece of paper, you could work on it for a day or weeks. Sometimes I sit there for months, you know, and you might have pulled something out, and it's very much a building kind of process like that, you know, and that's just the kind of fine art printmaking element of it. Can I put the radio on, or do we need a mic? It's mad. I always ever gonna do it. Like from the moment I get up in the morning, it's always music playing. It's like even like all actually the titles of my artwork are all generally lyrics from songs or titles of songs I'm playing in the studio. So it kind of ties in with a place and time or what I was listening to at the time, you know. You know, people are like, we're willing to take a risk this year on doing different stuff. I've definitely found that myself. I've visited projects that I kept putting in a long finger because it was just maybe I always put it down to just not having time. And it's important as a creative to kind of flex and make mistakes and do the what ifs, you know, because that's what leads you down different paths. And I think that's just a creative kind of exploration, definitely, you know. It's like, why not do that? There's absolutely no one telling you that you can't. I think a lot of the time it's kind of in your own head. You have that fear of going, well, what if I do that? And then suddenly I just fall away and no one looks at my stuff anymore. But it's like, it's just you just don't know unless you do it. I mean, you could always be thinking about the what ifs, and it's important to kind of knock that and just say, why not? This year, I think I did 4 pieces this year. Did one extra, one for luck. They're kind of collage pieces. I kind of work into older prints. Like I rarely throw away offcuts or errors in work. I always try to kind of keep it or work with it. And what I've done in previous Incognitos is taken older prints and cut a window to the shape of the postcard and move it around and create new compositions. So you're kind of creating a new artwork within an older discarded piece, which is kind of nice. You're giving it a new kind of energy, a new life. So I've done that. In other parts, I've kind of done it with 2 different artworks and taken them and cut them and created collages, which is nice because I don't do that often. So I really enjoy that. It's nice to kind of do something a bit different for these. So they are quite, I suppose, in a way, they are very unique in their own. They're not prints, they're not editions, they're kind of their own, I suppose, compositions and collages, they're their own unique artworks, you know. And that's kind of fun because I rarely work on small scale things that size, so it's quite interesting just to kind of change it up and do that, you know. Okay, I'm going to butter this on nice. Look at that there now, huh? So yeah, like it's all, you know, it's quite, you know, time consuming, I suppose. It's not, I suppose everyone's kind of familiarity with print is just picture on the screen, you press go.
Have you considered doing that? It is handier.
It is. I have done that in circumstances, but I always like to have the hand connection. So I have done like, a digital print, and then I'd overprint it in gold myself, just because it has that kind of connection with the artist. I always kind of like that, I suppose, when you go from, working in design, where it is you send off your file to print and it comes back. There's not kind of a connection directly, but I do that. I suppose it's kind of different mixed media, which is kind of fun as well, I think I just really grasped onto, I suppose, the anonymity element of it. I suppose the accessibility element as well. That fun of not knowing, of just buying by your gut. I've always enjoyed that. And I remember going to I think it was the first one above in Dublin, and I kind of ducked in early before work. I think I got in there at 8:30, maybe the gallery opened at 9. And there's already a queue around the block, and I was like, oh man, I thought no one would know about this. And you're meeting people who were there overnight, people were super eager to get an artist, they knew their work. But then they kind of found new artworks while also kind of just, perusing. So that's kind of nice. You're kind of happening upon new art, and you're finding new art, which is kind of great. As an artist, it's nice to, I suppose, create work, and people can kind of buy your work that might necessarily be able to, get it or pay whatever it is in the gallery, which is nice. If they really like your work, you appreciate someone going out and queuing to kind of buy your artwork. It's always a good thing. And the fact that it, ties in and benefits the charity of Jack and Jill, which is great as well. Like this year, the artworks are €60, and that goes on to pay for like 4 hours worth of time for a nurse to take care of a child, which is great. It's one thing for me to be, spending my time to create an artwork that someone will appreciate. But then again, it's that story that's connected with it. It resonates. This artwork is, you're paying your €60, but it's not just for you to have something nice and accessible on your wall. It really is on to paying for a nurse's time to take care of a sick child. But then it also relieves the family who's been taking care of this child, the parents, their siblings as well. So it goes a lot deeper than just a picture on a wall. I think, like a lot of people, like in anything, maybe in art, people just seem to be put off with suddenly it's like, oh, well, art, I need to spend loads of money to buy good art. You don't. It's kind of in all and anything. But I think with Incognito, it can act as a nice kind of introduction and a stepping stone to learning about artists and new artists. And you acquire something for €60 and you get attached to it, and then you might become attached to that artist. You're supporting the arts, keeping that going. We're getting something a bit unique and original, and it's a connection with another person, another human. A lot of time when people have a very unique or diverse kind of art collection, it kind of says a lot about them as well. It's even just for me, I find all the art that I've had at home, it's part of the tapestry of my life. Of if I look at this painting, I got that off someone when I was living there, or I swapped this with that person. There's a story, there's a narrative to it all, and it's not just, it could quite easily be a New York City skyscraper scene that my neighbor has and my neighbor's neighbor has, but when it's something different, that's interesting, that's good, that's a story, and that's what people love. People love stories. I'm Jenna Driscoll. I'm a visual artist by what am I saying? I'm Jenna Driscoll. I'm a visual artist based here in Cork and working out of Cork Printmakers.
Well, thank you to everybody who took place in this show. And the people I really want to thank too are the artists. There are 1,200 of them who've created over 3,000 pieces this year. The website's now open for you to look at what you want to buy, and on the 22nd of April at 10 a.m. you can log on and you can buy the ones that you want. Bye.